we want to talk about conflict. And the axiom that many people would agree with is stop reacting and start responding. That's kind of a universal principle, but the problem is most leaders don't know how to actually do that. And so I want to introduce you to three concepts. And if you understand these three, I think as a concert, they will help you to better lead your team in resolving conflict productively. So the first area is that of styles. And Thomas Kilmann, he put together what is commonly referred to as conflict style management. And wherever you look on the internet, you'll see one variety or another of Thomas Kilmann's work. He talks about those that are competing, avoiding, collaborating, accommodating, or compromising. And all of that is on an axis of assertiveness versus the cooperativeness. And so there's lots of resources, self-assessments, and it is important that people understand their default style. But knowing your style doesn't often help you to regulate when your tendency might be to react. The second element is that of roles. And here Hartman put together what is commonly referred to as the drama triangle. And again, there's lots of resources about this. And like in any good story or any good drama, there's always a victim, there's always a persecutor, and there's a rescuer, right? And those roles switch because sometimes the person that's the rescuer now becomes the persecutor of the person that was persecuting the victim. And it goes round and round. But it is helpful to know your default style, but it's also helpful to know what role you might be in a particular conflict. And the key there is get out of the role, solve the problem. Now, the third area really has to do with responses. And what I'd like for you to do is think in terms of being able to read the messaging that's coming in from a person. Now, their style might play a part, their role may play a part, but overall, listen to what they're saying. That part of active listening on the part of the manager goes a long way to responding to what they need. So let's build that model a little bit. First, you have this axis point of task versus people, right? And then you have on the other side this idea that you could have somebody that wants to stabilize their context. They want to respond to the context. On the other, you have somebody that wants to change the context. And so people will fall somewhere on those scales, right? They are a continuum, so nobody's purely one thing or another. Which brings up the point, try not to assign people to labels, but read their behavior in any particular environment. So what I like to say is if a person has high task and they are on this side of trying to change the environment, they're likely going to want to manage something. If they are on the side of people and wanting to change, they will often try and motivate or inspire. If a person is on the people side, but also on the stabilization, they're going to mollify, which isn't a word maybe you hear that often. It simply means to calm or to stabilize or to ensure safety. And then in that top quadrant where you have high task and high stability, you'll have mandates. People that will want to respond to data, that want to create policies, and so on and so forth. So then what do you do as a manager when somebody comes to you and they are having a conflict? So by the premise that we laid at the beginning, you don't want to react. You want to listen to what they're saying and respond accordingly. So if a person comes and they are very agitated, they are excited about something, they're upset about something, and it happens to be in a task area, and they want to change something. What do? You add responsibility to them. Don't squash them, don't stifle them, don't try and micromanage them. Let them try and manage some of those things. They have natural energy and passion to do so. Likewise, if somebody comes to you and they're very excited and it's about how to develop people and they want to change something about the rules, the regulations, go ahead, get excited with them, lean into them, hear what they're saying. They have the interest of people involved, commend them for that, and don't stifle them or squash them by policy or other mandates that you might give as a manager. And then if you move to that quadrant of mollify, somebody comes and they're concerned about a policy or a principle that's in place that might be affecting others negatively. What should you do? In that case, you show sympathy. Think of it as emotional intelligence. Listen carefully, understand where they're coming from, and by all means, don't pressure them. People that are on this side of the quadrant don't want to be rushed. Those that want to change the environment, they tend to want to do it fast. But here's a person that's coming, and what they want to know is, do you have a heart for the people, as well as making sure that policy is upheld? And then finally, you have people, they want to mandate change. They're coming to you with stacks of data, some policy's been violated. They want to keep people accountable. And so what do you do in those situations? Well, encourage them and permit them to do some analysis. Data can be very helpful. Data doesn't always solve conflict, but it does establish a factual basis. So let them do that and don't dismiss the data. Don't become the person that says, I'm blind to what the data says. We're into groupthink here. Don't do that, right? So what do we learn from all this? The wise respond, the foolish react, the wise think and then act, the foolish act and then regret. So that's actually an anonymous quote, but I put there, the regretter, because we've all been there. So let me ask you, you will face conflict, but are you now going to begin to think about what is the style in play here? What's their default personality, temperament response to conflict? What role has been assigned to you and to them? Are they the victim or the persecutor? Or are you now the hero all of a sudden? And then lastly, make sure you're responding to what people are saying. And I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll say, what is the behavior telling me, so that I can respond uniquely and appropriately as a manager. We really appreciate you watching. Thank you.